Okay, so welcome everybody to this Google Classroom for Remote Success webinar. My name is Corey Freed. I am the Educational Consultant and Training Specialist for Visual Sound. This webinar is being recorded and will later be posted to YouTube for future reference if you would like. If you would like to receive an email that includes all of the links that we talk about today, please just put your address in the chat box right now. That will allow me to copy it before we shut down and send out that email. So most people have already been using Google Classroom in their classroom, but now we're kind of moving to that remote learning, that distance learning. So there's a couple of different things you can do to try to help make it easier for you and your students. I am going to start with the basics just in case you have never used Google Classroom, but I am going to also go through the basics kind of fast so that we can get to some tips and tricks. So the first thing I want to just warn you, some school districts do change things on the back end. If this is true in your school district, you as the teacher will not be able to edit certain features. So the first thing is setting up your brand new classroom. When you set up a new classroom, you are going to see on the top of Google Classroom this nice little plus sign. That plus sign gives you two options, join a class or create a class. As a teacher, you are most likely going to hit create class. This pulls up a new text box. Your class name, which is the only required field, will be this top logo on top. The reason it's the only thing required is because obviously every class needs a name. However, if you have multiple classes with the same name, it is highly recommended that you put a section number. That section number will appear underneath your title, and you as the teacher, because obviously your students are not going to have 3 copies of Biology 101, but you as the teacher might have Biology 101 Section 1, Biology 101 Section 2, etc. So it makes it easier for you to visually know which class is which. You could also add a subject area and a room number. That would again go underneath the title. It is not a requirement though. A really new feature that has just come out in the past few days is Hangout Meet is now embedded in your Google Classroom. But this is not available for all G Suite accounts right now because Google does roll new features out on a cycle. So some schools get it faster, some schools will get it in a week. And if your school district has it turned off, you as the teacher might not see it at all. So just know it is coming. To get to that, you would go to the settings for your class, and I will show you in a few minutes where the classroom setting options are. So how do you add students to your class? There are 3 main methods, and when I say 3 main, I mean 3 only methods. Method 1 is that your school district is using a student information system. When they use this, and this would normally be the same program that you probably take attendance and gradebook on, if this is how your school is set up, then the SIS will automatically create your Google Classrooms and enroll your students. So method 1 is the school district does it for you. Method 2 is you use the class code. If you remember on the last slide, I showed you that icon for the plus sign that said add a class or create a class. Your students would click add a class and they would come right over here to the class code. That class code is how they enter the class. It's basically like a password, and the class would then be added to them and they would be added to your roster. The last option is to send email addresses to all your students. Type in all of their names. If it is for a school district account, which it probably is, your students will most likely just show up automatically through your contacts of your organization. So as you start to type their name, you would see it pop up. Click on it. Once you have all your students added down here, you just click invite. Your students will get an email that they were invited, and the first time after they get the invite that they log into Google Classroom, they will see the icon for the class, and it'll have the word join. This is more work on your end, but it guarantees that your students have the class correctly. So how do you post information and assignments for your students? There are 2 different tabs that you can post information from. Tab number 1 is your stream. Think of your stream as your master feed of all information. Everything you post and everything your students post publicly will show on the stream. The stream is reverse chronological, which means the new stuff is always on top and the older stuff will start to move down as you go along. The next tab is the classwork tab. The classwork tab is where you can you can add assignments, quizzes, questions, materials, etc. So in the stream, you can just basically make announcements. Anything that you want to do as an assignment, that you want students to turn in, that you want to have a due date, all of that would go under the classwork tab. Again, if you do have Google Meet turned on in your Google Classroom, you will see an icon for Google Meet. So this is a new feature. You might not see it, so don't panic if you don't see it. So one of the biggest things that I have heard from teachers in the past 2 weeks is that they've given files to their students, but the files are not working the way they want them to. So this little chart here that I created is the before you attach the file, what is your goal? So if you want the file to just be a resource, perhaps you have a PDF copy of a textbook, or perhaps you made your PowerPoint and you are doing a webinar like I am right now, but you want the students to have their own copy. So if it's just a view-only copy, you just need the one master copy for yourself. And when you attach it to your classes, all students can view the file. But what if you want the students to work collaboratively as a class? Well, you need to have a separate copy for each class. If you attach the same one for like 5 different sections, all 5 sections will be able to edit that same copy. So the goal is to have each section with their own copy before you attach it. And you could easily do this in Google Drive by clicking Make a Copy. So each class would have its own copy, and then you would select the Students Can Edit file when you are attaching the document to your Google Classroom. The last option is if you want the students to complete an assignment independently. So let's say that you have a math worksheet and you want the students to all solve the math problems on their own. Well, you don't need to make a different copy for each class. You just need your master copy. When you attach that to Google Classroom and click Make a Copy for each student, when your students click on the file, it will actually create an automatic copy for them and put their name in the subject area of the file. So this way, every student is working on their own copy and no 2 students can accidentally write on each other's. The important fact that I want to make sure you guys are aware of too is that if you want the students to edit the file, please make sure it is a Google file. If you attach a PDF or a Word document or a PowerPoint, there are workarounds for students to edit those files, but it is going to make it more difficult. And you don't want to give your students excuses not to be doing the work. So take the extra 2 seconds, convert the file to a Google Doc, and it will make life easier for everyone. So when you are creating an assignment, you will see on the right side a little pop-up. It gives you all of these options before you assign the assignment. Right here, it says the current class, and it has a pull-down menu. You are able to select multiple classes. So again, let's say you are a biology teacher and you have 3 sections of 101. You can pull down that menu and select all 3 of your classes if you want that assignment to be for all 3 classes. But what if you want the assignment to just be for 3 or 4 students within the class? Well, to the right, there is another pull-down menu that says All Students. When you pull down this menu, every student's name in the class will show up, and you can check which one specifically you want that assignment to go to. This is really good for differentiation and also for small groups. Because let's say that you want your higher students to have one type of article and your lower students to have a separate copy of that same article. By doing multiple assignments, you can attach the different articles to their assignments. The next thing is the point value, and I apologize for that typo that I just noticed. So the point value is defaulted at 100. You can change that however you want. You can also attach rubrics now. So if you were to attach a rubric to the assignment, your students would get a copy of that rubric, and they would be able to see exactly where the points are coming from. The last thing that I want to just quickly point out about grading is the originality reports. This checkbox is kind of important because you can only use it 3 times per class. The originality report will actually compare your students' work to an entire Google search. So it kind of helps with plagiarism. However, again, remember, this is limited to 3 assignments. So don't click that originality report box for every assignment. Hold it off for your bigger assignments that you really want to make sure students are not plagiarizing. So that's the grading information: point value, rubrics, and originality. So now you have a due date and you have topics. When you pull down the menu for due date, you will see two separate things, date and time. This is sort of important depending on how strict you as a teacher want to be. If you want the assignment to be turned in by the end of the normal school day, for example, 3 p.m., make sure you set the time. If you don't care that they turn it in at midnight, just set a date. Once that time has passed, the assignment will be marked late, and you as the teacher will see turned in late when you go to grade it. This is really helpful for the time stamping because there's no gray area. The student either turned it in on time or they turned it in late. There's no, well, I thought I hit submit. It's time stamped and you obviously can see what's going on. The topics is how you can label assignments. So this way, it does help you as the teacher to kind of keep track and organize your classroom for your students. I do have some other tips for organizing that I'll show you in a moment, but the topics is a really important one. When we leave this presentation and I take you to see a real life example of Google Classroom in action, I will actually show you how those topics do benefit you as the teacher and your students. All right, so tips and tricks. My first tip and trick is kind of one that a lot of teachers have already been doing. It is number your assignments starting with 001. Now, the reason you want to use 3 digits is because if you think about alphabetizing numbers, when you have your numbers and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., when you get to the number 10, it will actually go between the 1 and the 2. If you start with 001, they will continue to alphabetize correctly. I say 3 digits, and most education trainers agree on 3 digits because you probably are not going to go over 999 assignments. If you think you are, start with 4 digits. The purpose of alphabetizing your assignments with these numbers is it helps you and your students stay organized. When you go into your Google Drive, you will see all of your files and they automatically alphabetize. So if you're telling the student to look for a file from September, or in this case from April, and it's now June, those files might be a little trickier to find. But if they're numerically in order, when you say to the student, go look for something from the beginning of the year, they can easily know, oh, I should go start with the number 1 and move forward. So numbering your assignments really does help with organizing the Google Drive. Setting your topics to tag the subjects, categories, etc. As I showed you when you're setting up an assignment, there is a tag or a topic. This really does help organize. So you can organize things as classwork, homework, exams if you were in the traditional classroom. You're not really going to have homework with a remote learning because everything is home. So you might want to sort it by category. For example, if you were doing a unit on Shakespeare, you might categorize the Romeo and Juliet assignments. Then you might categorize the Hamlet assignments. This way the students and you both see it organized a little nicer, and it will help you all to find things fast, stay organized, etc. The last tip and trick I have for Google Classroom during remote learning is taking daily attendance. If you want to make sure your students are working every single day, then I would recommend doing a single multiple choice question. And when I say single, I just mean only have one answer choice. There's no trick question. There's no am I here or am I not? Because obviously if they log in, they're here. So the question is, did you log in today? And then the answer could just be yes. If you want to get a little more into with your students, I would actually say make it a short answer and say, how are you doing today? Because we all know that this is a rough time for our students, and having that little bit of a social connection might help. Now, the students won't see each other's answers unless you specifically allow them to. So don't worry about them writing something embarrassing to their classmates. Again, you set if they see it, if you see the answer or if everyone sees the answer. Now, when you are setting these attendance assignments, you can pre-schedule them to post at, for example, 8 a.m. in the morning. And then you set your due time as 3 p.m. So if the student logged in between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m., they can check off that quick box and it shows that they came into your class during the school day. If they show up at, for example, 5 p.m., they are not going to be able to check the box on time. It will be marked as late. So did they come in? Yes, but were they late? Sadly, they were. Now, again, because this is a whole new experience for everyone, unless your administration is specifically saying students should be logged in from 8 to 3 or from 9 to 5, don't be too strict about the times. Our students are going through a lot right now, so respect them, they respect you, etc. I did just see somebody posted a question, so before I move on, can the attendance question be timed differently than assignments? When you say timed differently, do you mean can they be graded differently, or do you mean can they be scheduled differently? I just want to clarify what you mean by timed.
Scheduled.
So the scheduling would be the same. So the same way that you schedule for example, an essay, you would schedule the attendance.
I don't mean the
It
same.
is,
I mean, let's say you're doing. There's my cat. I'm sorry, screaming.
no, it's okay.
Um, right now, of all the times I've been on here, and now she's like, um,
It's okay.
um, let's say I do a vocabulary lesson, and it's from Tuesday 8 to 3. Now,
Okay.
can my attendance be 7 to 2? I mean, just for an example.
Oh, yes. So they don't have to be the same. You can schedule things differently to overlap. That's fine.
Right. That's right.
They don't have to be identical scheduling.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that what you meant?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Then yes, they do not have to be identical. Every assignment is its own assignment. So if you use an assignment for attendance, that is its own assignment. You can overlap, you can have multiple. I've seen some teachers have like 10 things going at once because they give their class a choice of what to do in what order. So, yes, it is completely up to you. All right. So, the next thing I want to show you is a demonstration power or PDFs. Students cannot really edit a PDF when you attach them to a Google Classroom because most of the time for PDFs, you do need special software that costs money. So if you have a worksheet, for example, and you want your student to be able to edit the document and answer questions, it's not going to be as easy as just attaching the PDF. So what you would need to do is convert that PDF to an image file. The easiest way to do that is to open the PDF on your computer and take a screenshot of it. There are PDF converters on the internet. So if you Google PDF to image, you will find something. I can't tell you which is better than the others though, because I have not personally tried every single one of those converters. So then you would want to do, once you have the image file, you would want to go into Google Drive and create a slide. So just go new, Google Slides. Set each page of your PDF as a slide background. So to do that, on the top of Google Slides, you will see an option that says background on the toolbar. And when you click that background, one of the options says choose an image. Choose the image, find where you save the file, and then the next slide is an example of what that would end up looking like. So now my students have, basically it's a Google slide, but it is a PDF. And if I come out of full screen mode, you will see there is the direction slide, and here is the question slide. The students would then be able to, because you would set it as each student gets a copy, they could put a text box, and they could I'm just making up an answer, so don't mark this as wrong. And they could just type in an answer. They could also possibly, depending on what kind of computer they have, open up a pen tool and write on their Google Slides. Every computer and program is different. Google Slide does not have a native pen, so this would have to be typed answers. But that is the trick to having a PDF as an editable file for your students. So that is the end of the slideshow. What I'm going to do now is I am going to actually take you out of my Google Slides and to two examples. Now, I have two separate browsers open right now on the window. You could see this nice line in the middle. On the left is the student view, and on the right is the teacher view. The reason I want you to see them side by side is because sometimes as teachers, we don't get to see what the students are seeing. So that was kind of the reasoning why I did it this way. The way you can tell which is which, the teacher has grades, the student does not. You'll also notice that the teacher has the class code, the student does not. So that's how you can, if you can't remember which one's left and which one's right, that's the difference on the visual is the grades and the class code. So you'll see right here is my stream, and I have 3 sample assignments up there. I have yesterday's attendance, which I technically posted today, but I called it yesterday. I have today's attendance, and I have today's slideshow. Same thing shows for the student. In the classwork tab, I have things sorted as attendance check-in and notes. Notice that attendance for 411 on the teacher side says scheduled for tomorrow at 8 a.m., but on the student side, there is no attendance for 11. This is because as a teacher, when you create an assignment, you can schedule them to post later in the day or future days. Again, if you're going to be doing attendance, you can set up the whole week in advance, but not let it post to the students until a scheduled time. You'll notice that I also have notes. The notes say today's slides, and it is the same on both because it is listed as a material. When you click create, you will see material as an option. This is where you can post your digital textbooks, links to special websites. So let's say, for example, you are a ELA teacher and you use, I am going to totally butcher this. What is that website that you're using lately, George, for articles?
Common Lit.
Common Lit, thank you.
Mhm.
So Common Lit is a great website for ELA teachers because I know News ELA is not a good website anymore. It used to be before they put the paywall.
Right.
But let's say you have like a class articles and you're not making the students actually like respond to it. You just want it to be there for them to read. You can submit that as a material because that says to the student, there's no due date, there's no assignment. I just want you to know this exists. Questions are normally just one question. You can type your question, type instructions if you want to add anything, and then make it a short answer or a multiple choice. Like I said, if you're doing this as attendance, I would just make one answer choice that says I'm here because obviously the student's not going to check if they're not there. Students can see the class summary. If you want the students to know how many of their classmates are checking the box, let them see it. If you just want it to be private, turn it off. When you have it selected as a short answer, you can let the students see each other's answers. If you click students can reply, they'll be able to see each other's work. If that's unchecked, they don't see each other's work. You could also create assignments, quizzes, and reuse previous posts. The quiz assignment is kind of the same as the regular assignment, except it automatically creates a Google form for you. If you were to go to a regular assignment, though, and click add a Google form or create a Google form, because I don't have any previously in this file, it would do the same thing. So just know that assignment and assignment quiz are basically the same thing, just one has the form automatically attached. Now, again, the teacher will have the column that says grades, and the students will not. This is because this is your full grade book of all your Google assignments. The students, when they go to classwork, they can see the grade if the teacher graded something. So really quick, I just want to show you today's attendance. I purposely set it to be due at 3 o'clock so that when I turn it in today, it's late. So I am going to check my I'm here box and turn it in. So you will now see the student sees, oh, I turned it in late. Now I, as the teacher, when I go to yesterday's assignment, because I want to start with the one that was turned in on time, you will see it just says blank out of 100. It was showing as turned in. I can then give my student the grade, click return. That way you can see what the student sees in a second. Now I can go to the other assignment. I have to go backwards to the classroom and go to today's homework or today's attendance, and you will see it tells you right there done late. So it tells me the student marked turned in, but that they turned it in late. So maybe if I was marking this and actually grading attendance, I would give that student a 95 because it was turned in late. honestly, I would not really be grading attendance. I would just be using it for record keeping. So in that case, instead of giving it a grade, sorry, I went to the wrong place. I would come back to the question. I would click edit. And where it says point value, I would just mark it as ungraded. This way, the student knows attendance is not going to affect their grade. And now when I go to the grading, I see that it was turned in. All I have to do is say returned. And this just notifies the student that I saw they came in. There's no grade. There's no actual penalty for being late, but it allows me as the teacher to have a record of who logged in on time and who logged in late. So now as a student, if I come back to my other side, when I come to the assignment, I see that it was graded. If I click view question, I will see that I got 100 out of 100 for yesterday. And if I go to today's, it just tells me it was returned. Because again, I changed today's to no grade. So it just lets the student know that it was turned in. So I'm going to open up the floor to questions. I did go a little bit over my normal amount of time because I normally like to leave about 5 to 10 minutes for questions, and it is 3:30 right now. I am not in a rush to go anywhere, but I do value your time. So please don't feel like you have to stay on longer. But if you have any questions, feel free to come off of mute or type them in the text box. And for my guest who came late, if you would like to receive resources from today's session, please just type your email address in the chat box. That way I have a record to know who to email stuff to.
You ready?
Go ahead.
I'd like to go back to the PDF. Putting the PDF in the classroom, which is not a problem, but I always load it up when I fill my classroom, so this, like there's the one before this.
Okay. So the slide before this. That one?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how to say this. Okay, so normally on a regular teaching day, I put the classwork in classroom so they have it to read on their own at times. Like let's say it's a Common Lit or ReadWorks article.
Okay.
And I know they can't write on it at this point.
Right.
Because actually in class, most of the things are given out in a hard copy anyway, also.
Yes, that is true.
Now, I've been in a situation where we've talked about Common Lit in our PLC meetings, and the man next to me was able to convert a PDF to a Word doc.
Possible, yes. Perfect, no.
But I wasn't. I know each computer is different, but
okay. So here's the problem with opening PDFs or trying to convert PDFs. Sometimes, first of all, sometimes you need a program that costs money. Most of the free programs are not very, I'm not going to lie, they're terrible. There is some attachments for Google Drive that can be helpful. So when you go in your Drive, if you go to folders, more, and then you see on the bottom it says connect more apps.
Wait a minute. Yep.
Okay. So when you go to connect more apps, now none of these cost money up front. Some of them may limit you to like a trial of 5, and then it says purchase a license to continue. I don't know which ones are which. I can't really say. But I do know if you come to the search and you type in PDF, it will bring you very slowly because a watch pot never boils. It will bring you to a couple of different PDF programs that work in your Google Drive.
Like PDF to Word Converter, I see there.
Right. Now, again, it is not going to be perfect. Nothing is going to be perfect because PDFs in themselves are a very interesting type of file. They are basically a photocopy of the original document in a way. So the purpose is not every computer has the same fonts installed or the same image files or whatever. So by creating a PDF, it, like I said, it makes kind of like a photocopy. And this gives you the ability that anyone who opens that file is going to visually see the exact same thing.
Okay.
When you try to convert it to Word or convert it to whatever, the computer's trying to read it and translate it back. And it doesn't always translate back properly.
Okay.
So that's the reason I'm saying it can work, but it might not work. And I've never actually used that one to be able to say yes or no.
Okay.
I have personally used this one, DocHub.
Yeah, I've got that.
DocHub is a nice one if you just need to type on top of a PDF,
Oh,
but it's not going to be native to Google Classroom. So you would have to be able to show your students, first of all, how to add DocHub to their Google Drive account,
hmm,
and then how to use it. So it's kind of multi-step, and from a remote location, it's a little more difficult than if you were in the classroom showing them.
okay. And I also want to add, as far as putting the um, PDF on a slide, I want you to know that if you put thumbnails on the PDF,
Right?
you can copy and paste them onto your slide.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, you pull up your PDF,
Okay.
which is how commonly it does come. And if you save it to your uh, desktop, open it up, it'll have thumbnails on the left. Or you can go and put, it might be actually off, but you can go into the, um,
Okay, so you're talking about the default Adobe Reader for the PDF.
yeah.
Okay,
And
keep
you have
going.
little boxes on the left, just like your slides do on the left.
Right.
So get your slide open, either Word or on Google Doc, Google Slides. Click it, uh, then go edit, copy, go onto your slide, put edit, paste, and that sheet comes onto your slide.
Interesting.
I
I have
sent
not tried that, George.
Yeah, and because they come sort of half a sheet, I put 2 on 1.
Okay.
So I think that, in other words, that's what you were talking about when you said take a screenshot and put it in. That does the same
Kind
thing.
of.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And
The
if you
reason
don't
why
want
I recommend setting it as the background
Mhm.
is because notice that like here on this slide, I could
Mhm.
take some like an image and I can
Mhm.
move it.
Mhm.
So if I was the student and I click in the wrong spot, now I just moved the picture and I messed up the slide and I might not be like if I move the questions but I'd already typed answers on top,
Mhm.
now everything's like combobbled. By
Yeah.
setting it as my background, it does not move at all. It is like
Oh.
glued on there.
Mhm.
The only thing that moved, as you just saw, was the text box where I typed an answer.
Right. And I think if you try that other way, I think you'll see that you can put the text box in the same way and do the same thing.
Okay, I will definitely have to try that.
Mhm.
That's an interesting technique. I have not, like I said, I have not tried that yet.
'Cause I always overlay them with, lines to write or, um, pictures and videos, stuff like that.
Okay, that is
And
really cool.
also, in the last group I did for reviewing, for a better word, um, I'll make them a worksheet, like a blank with numbered lines and everything, and make a copy for each student that they could answer on there and not have to worry about writing on the PDF part.
That works as well. You can attach multiple documents to the same Google Classroom file.
Mhm.
And if you were to do that, hang on, I gotta remember which window. I have too many windows open on my computer right now. All right, so if I go back to the classroom and I go to create a new assignment, let's say I'm going to add a PDF, and I think I have a PDF on my computer. So let's hope, cross your fingers, that I have a fast PDF to find because I just did that math demo. So I should.
The first one, 1 to 21 looks like.
There we go. So there's a PDF.
Mhm.
So students can view the PDF. And then if I go to create a doc, because I don't
Mhm.
actually have a doc right now made, it's going to open up a blank Google Doc for me so I can make the quote unquote worksheet for the student.
Mhm.
I would just call this answer sheet.
Right.
And then once I have it, I'm just going to leave it as a blank document because obviously it's not, it's just a demo right now.
Mhm.
But so I have my PDF and then I have my answer sheet. Students can view. I'm going to click make a copy for each student.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to assign this demo. Notice I didn't bother putting a due date or anything because this is just to show you something.
But that's exactly what I did with this last group.
Okay. So now I assigned it. And you're also going to notice like the demo assignment came on top because I didn't give it a category.
Mhm.
So now as the student, I go back to my home page and I see that a new assignment, demo assignment was given. I click on it and the PDF is going to be on top because
Mhm.
that's obviously just a view document. But then it says your work and it just says answer sheet
Right.
and it automatically labels it with the student's name.
Mhm.
This is a kind of confusing demo because my student account and my teacher account are both Corey Freed. They're just different email addresses. So don't think it says Corey Freed because that's the teacher's name. That would be the student's name.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions?
I do have one, but I'm gonna let somebody else go first.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question right now? I noticed that April said she's teaching fourth grade, so I know some of the stuff I was showing was more high school. Do you have any elementary school questions you'd want to see? Okay. If you come up with a question, feel free to come off of mute. I just don't want to sit here twiddling my thumb trying to figure out if you're going to ask or not, because obviously, well,
Oh,
I hope your relatives are doing well. And I appreciate you taking the time to come join us today. Um, this is the reason I love that this has a chat box and a microphone because some people it's much easier to type than have sound turned on. Oh, one other thing I was going to just recommend is if you do not have the option for Google Meet built into your classroom yet, and you would like to create a Google Meet for your class, I would recommend that you either go to your calendar first or straight to Meet. I'm just going to go into the calendar since that's the link that I started to open. And you would click create. And you would make your calendar event. Then it says add location or conferencing. When you click that, it brings up add conferencing. Once you click that, you will see your Google Meet has automatically populated. Save that calendar event. And when you open the actual event, you will see it says join Hangout Meets. And to the right, you get that little double box that says copy the link to your clipboard. When you copy that clipboard event, you can now create an event. I'm just going to put this as a material. And you can add it as a link. So that's the workaround if your school has not turned on the embedded part yet, or if it just hasn't reached your school district yet. So now you have the new material, Google Meet, and you have your class video link. Again, if they have turned on Meet, I said I was going to show this to you and I almost forgot. There is the gear. When you go into your gear as the teacher, you see all your class details, and then as you scroll down, here is the option for Google Meet. You can reset the link if you want to change it. And then visible to students. If I uncheck visible to students, my students will not get the link on theirs. You will still have the link as the teacher, so you can like privately message it to students, but it would, or you can make it as an actual assignment, but it would not just stay pinned to the top of the class. The other things you can change in the class settings would be your grading. So if your school district has its own version of a grade book, It's not always beneficial to like reinvent the wheel and post your grades on Google Classroom and on the gradebook and here and there. If like right now you're not really using grades and it's more of like a pass fail type of system, again, check with your administration. Every school's different. You might want the students to see a version of the grade and say like, well, here's what you would have. It is a pass, but you would have had an 80 or however you want to do it. But this is where you would change the grading if you're going to use Google's gradebook that's built into Google Classroom. Once you are satisfied with everything you do here, you hit save and you're good to go.
Is that also a place to start Meet other than in your create section?
So if you have the Meet turned on for the class and you have the link on top here,
Mhm.
you can just say to the students, all right, guys, at 5 o'clock, I want you to log into Meet. So you can just put that as a comment.
Mhm.
Doesn't even have to be an assignment because you're not actually assigning anything. You're just asking them to log in. And then at 5 p.m., the students would all come over here, click the link, and they would be in.
Okay, could you please go back to the gear and scroll down? Okay, you see where it says Meet?
Yes.
That one that's created or also another place to create?
So that's going to be the one that would show up on the top for you and the
Okay.
students.
And if you don't want them to see that link, what happens when, like, if that link is on my, what do you ever call it, homepage at the top there? Um, what happens when students go in, but I'm not there yet?
The students can't enter without the teacher. That is part of the G Suite for Education settings.
Mhm.
It's one of those features that Google kind of helped build in based on teacher feedback as this whole situation has been evolving. If you did not already know this, I'm going to show you a really quick trick. You see on the bottom of the page that question mark?
Mhm. Yep.
Where it says report an issue, it also says request a feature. The people who work for Google, they actually read every piece of feedback they're given. I know this for a fact because I do know some of the people who are the ones reading it. They will read every piece of feedback you give. And if you give them feedback and say, I want to be able to create multiple meets for small group projects or whatever, and you hit send, they read that. If a lot of teachers are asking for the same thing, that's what they're going to focus their engineers on.
Mhm.
But they really do take teacher feedback very strongly. And they really do. Almost every feature that's in Google Classroom today was not there 6 years ago when Google Classroom started. Google Classroom came out in 2014. In 2014, it was basically just the stream. That was it. Teacher said, I wish there was a way to see a preview of all that's coming up so that my students don't forget the stuff that's posted farther down the road. Teacher said, I wish there was a way to incorporate a gradebook into my Google Classroom. All of this stuff came from teachers' recommendations.
Mhm.
So definitely click that question mark and give them your feedback if you have ideas.
Okay.
I hate to say this, you won't get credit for the idea, but you will make yourself and other teachers very happy. Any other questions? All right, I am going to turn off the recording. I will stick around another minute or two if anyone has any final thoughts or comments, but thank you all again for your time. I appreciate it. We are going to be repeating this webinar on Tuesday, so if you do come up with any other questions, please feel free to stop back. The new schedule is up on Google Classroom. The new schedule is up on the Visual Sound webpage, and we have 3 workshops for next week, and then we have 3 more coming the following week, all based on teacher feedback of what they need help with. Office hours every single day. Just pop into the same link you joined today, and I am around to help you with whatever you need.